We are about to break into the last third of this cigar. About to. And like I said before, the second third started out by pretty much all the flavors from the first third, the spice, the coffee, everything kind of dissipating into this one note, very deep undertone, like a bassy, meaty flavor of Nicaraguan tobacco. Halfway or so through the second third, things started to pick up and get interesting again. A little spice came back, and some very deep coffee flavors along with hints of chocolate, dark chocolate, and even some chocolatey aroma, along with now what I'm getting, some very strong toasted almond flavors, which is, I get that a lot with Maduro cigars, you know, and this is, for lack of a better word, although the website doesn't ever call it Maduro, it's slow-fermented San Andreas. That's this dark fermentation. I would say, you know, a lot of websites selling this cigar just call it a Maduro. I don't know if that's technically right, but it seems to taste a lot like a Maduro at this point. Trying to keep the burn alive. You know, there's still a channel, and it's just a, you know, it's a good, strong tasting cigar that is not too, it has flavors not too uncommon to be found in a lot of other Nicaraguan cigars. I wouldn't say it's a blend that is spectacularly unique as far as that goes, except for these chocolatey kind of aromas and notes I'm getting. But, you know, it's a good cigar, and it's just being, you know, it's testing my patience with the construction issues, you know, so we'll see where we get. It's just burning a little hot right now because I'm having to draw several times. I'm having to puff several times to get a good draw. But, you know, even as such, I'm enjoying it. You know, at least I'm getting my nicotine. I mean, you know, here's the thing. As a smoker of all different cigars and a constant daily cigar smoker and a cigar reviewer, I know not to judge a cigar based on bad construction right off the bat. You know, try another one. Maybe try 3. And if you get 1 out of those 3 that's bad construction, if you get 3 out of 3, or even 2 out of 3 that's bad construction from 3 cigars, you know, maybe you got a bad box, you got to wait a few months, but you shouldn't have to, not for the good money you spend. But I would say try another. But unfortunately, for cigar companies, especially small ones, that's not the way most people think. People go spend their hard-earned money on a cigar, sit down after a hard day of work, and they're ready to enjoy it. They light up, and they get this type of construction that is severely testing my patience at this point. They're not going to try your cigar again. They're going to say, man, fuck, that cigar was fucking pain in the ass to smoke, you know, fuck it, I'll try something else. That's what's going to happen. So, on one side, I would say, I like the cigar, I recommend people try it, hopefully they won't have the burn issues. On the other side, I will say that if I were a, you know, cigar smoker who didn't give a shit about doing a review or anything else except enjoying a cigar, I would probably not, you know, be very willing to buy this again with these type of issues. But there are a lot of other reviews on the internet about this cigar, and most of them give it a lot of praise. I can't imagine that those reviewers went through this with these issues and gave it praise anyway, you know, and not mention it. That would just be wrong. So I'm gonna say that I probably got a bad stick as far as that goes. But that being the case, the flavor is good, the strength is good, the blend is interesting. I'm going to take the band off now just to get it out of the way, and that's that. So while I'm trying to get this last third going, why don't we, let me just say a few things about that pipe tobacco thing. So all in all, this show is not about pipes or pipe tobacco, so I'm going to keep it brief. But like I said, adding pipe tobacco to a cigar blend to me is really one step short of infusing, and here's the reason why. Pipe tobacco in general is treated very differently from the way cigar tobacco is treated. Some pipe tobacco is topped, which means syrup or flavor is added to the tobacco to give it a unique taste. A lot of times you get a maple. That's what gives a lot of. There's two different types of, two main categories of pipe tobacco. You have aromatic pipe tobacco, which is that stuff a lot of people are familiar with, that sweeter smelling. And then you have your English pipe tobacco, which is very straight, no additives, no syrups, no toppings. Although some can have that, okay? Aside from toppings, which are more rare, but they are used often, but they're more rare than what's called casing. During the fermentation process, as a part of the process, a lot of pipe tobacco is cased, what they call cased. And it's called cased because it's cased in sugars. And these sugars, during the fermentation process, do a lot of different things to the flavor. And technically, I really don't know, but they do add sweetness, they add flavor, and whatnot. On that note, you know, well, Virginia, for instance, Virginia pipe tobacco uses a lot of casing, stuff like that. Latakia is really a pipe tobacco. Very few people smoke straight. And it's more often used to be blended into like with Virginias or Burleys to create another blend. You know, Latakia adds a lot of, you know, peppery, spicy strength, stuff like that. You know, so I'm not really sure what you would come up with. All I know is it would taste very different, I think, than from any regular cigar. I mean, even take American Spirit makes a cigarette, black, American Spirit Black, and it's a full-strength cigarette with Perique, another type of pipe tobacco, added to it, and it tastes unbelievably different from any cigarette you've ever smoked in your life. So, and that's just a tiny little bit of flakes, you know. You know, so I don't know. To me, very unnatural, but we shall see what other people think. Anyway, let's move on along as we're smoking our final third. I have an email here. I think our burn is coming back again. Yeah, now it's smoking like it should. I don't know. For those channels to be like that, one after another, I'm thinking that, you know, somehow, maybe during the rolling process, the filler, you know, you have fillers, different leaves, and it's bunched, depending. We're going to talk about rolls next time, because a lot of people want to know about that, and I like to clarify some things. There's a bunch of different types of rolls, and a lot of times companies use, for instance, entubado, the Cuban style of rolling. They will misuse this phrase because what they're doing is not really entubado. But there's a lot of different types of rolls, and most of them consist of having the filler leaves separate, and then you roll them into the binder. And sometimes what can happen if it's improperly rolled, the filler leaves can twist and cause what would be referred to as a knot. Not so much a knot as tying a knot, but you know, you take a piece of loose leaf paper and keep wicking it, it gets wicked. That's the term. And that will make these deep grooves and channels. Okay. Also, if the cigar is rolled book style, where one leaf is just laid on top of another and then rolled over quickly, you know. I don't think this was rolled like that. I think there's some wicking going on, what I call wicking. Definitely smoking better now. Okay, so Angel, first let me tell you, I really do enjoy all your Fake or Fine videos and all the other reviews. I have a few questions regarding CCs, Cuban cigars, POCCs, but I chose this email because it doesn't really have everything to do with CCs. First, I have a vendor I trust implicitly, cigarshabanos.com. Have you heard or dealt with them? Very quickly, because it's not a Cuban cigar episode, I have heard of them. A guy named Ravi owns that. I've heard they're very good. I have not dealt with them, so I cannot say for sure or recommend them, as I have not experienced their cigars. That being said, we're past the Cuban part, and that's why I chose this. My other question is in regards to forms. There are some cigars like the Opus X and even older limitadas that are impossible to get. And there are people all over the forums that trade and buy with each other. I was wondering if you might be able to produce some insight on how not to get burned doing so, as I would really like to try some of these impossible to get cigars. Oh, okay. This brings up a great topic, which is trading. You know, trading requires one thing above all, and that is trust. Trading, just like dealing with, you know, buying Cuban cigars online, dealing with vendors who you can get burned from if you use the wrong one, you can get burned very easily trading with the wrong people. You know, you would think, if you are an honest individual, you would think that, you know, I would never do something like that. And you'd be right, that's you. But being that way also makes you think that, oh, come on, who would ever really do that? But like I said before, you look at the news every night, you know, and you look at what some people, even just driving to work, the way some people drive, take driving for instance, you see people do things that you're like, what is this person out of their fucking mind? Just because you think a certain way doesn't mean everybody thinks that way. And let me tell you, there are a lot of scumbags out there, especially on the internet, because the internet allows one to hide their identity more than anything else. Okay? And when you trade with people, you got to make sure you know who you're trading with. My whole problem with trading is this. Even the people who are supposedly trusted and popular, say, on these trading forums, a lot of the times you get a cigar that you think you know what you're getting, but there would really be no way for you to tell that that's not what you got, unless you are an extreme expert or have a friend who's like really knows what it. There would be certain times that it would be hard for me to tell if I got what I was asking for. And a lot of cigars are easy to mimic. Number one, I'm not saying everybody out there is a bullshit artist and a scumbag. I'm sure there are plenty of legitimate people out there who trade, and when they say they're giving a cigar, that's the cigar they give. But I want to make it a point to let you know just how easy it is to fake a fucking cigar. Take Opus X, for instance. There are a million different vitolas, okay? Being that they're so popular, especially in certain, you know, if in a domestic area, like if you work at a cigar shop, or even if you hang out at a cigar shop daily, you're bound to see an Opus X band a day in an ashtray. You know, while it's one of the rarest cigars, it's one of the bands that I have the most of. I used to save a lot of bands. I was going to do some coffee table art, you know, laminate them to an ashtray or something. I was even going to use this tray at one point, but I decided not to. I never got around to it. The point is, you can get a lot of bands by hanging out at cigar shops. Some people say even like on rare cigars, Cuban cigars, destroy your bands to keep just like not leaving your keys in the ignition. Don't leave the temptation around. People get ideas. You can just take an Opus X band and strap it onto a fucking, you know, 858 or anything, an LFD or any Dominican cigar of the same size, and send it on over to, obviously, a person who wants one is somebody who has a hard time getting their hands on them, so really probably isn't too familiar with what they're like in the first place. It's dangerous. It's dangerous grounds. A great example is the Monte Cristo Grand Reserva. Monte Cristo 2, one of the most popular, well-known cigars in the world. Monte Cristo Grand Reserva. The difference is, well, about $1,300 a box is the difference. Grand Reservas cost about $1,500, $1,600 a box. Monte 2s cost about $250, $300 a box. And basically, all you need is a Grand Reserva band. It's all you need. Now that one's a little harder to find, but if you work at a cigar shop or even hang out at a cigar shop, even in a place where Cuban cigars aren't legal or aren't around that much, Let me tell you, the cigar shop I used to work at, when the Monte 2 Grand Reservas came out, everybody was ordering them online because everybody was up in all, you know, it was the biggest, most popular thing. I have dozens of Grand Reserva bands, you know, and all you got to do is take a Monte 2 that looks, for instance, the Monte 2 that I smoked the last episode, like I said, that was one of the nicest look. The wrapper on that thing, there is no difference in size between the Grand Reserva and the Monte 2 at all. The only thing that would allow you to really tell is that the quality of the wrapper, the quality of the construction, knowing that looking at a regular Monte 2, usually next to a Grand Reserva cigar, you'd be able to say, that's not a Grand Reserva, it just isn't made well enough. But in some cases, like with the Monte 2 I had, there would be no telling. And unless, even if you had that instance, unless you're a fucking super expert, it would be hard for me. If you took two Monte 2s and took all the bands off and said, which one's the Grand Reserva? I don't know. I would go by the one that just looks better. And even in that case, I may be wrong, you know? So, you just, what it all comes down to, ultimately, is trust. And it's difficult to develop trust with people that you never meet, you know? It takes a lot of time, and time is what people don't have. People just want to trade and get their cigars and get it done with. So, you know, it's just difficult. It just is. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying, you know, be very careful. As always, do your homework. And before you trade, try to come up with some sort of way that you're going to be able to tell that this is definitely the cigar that you wanted. And in a lot of cases, you may not be able to. You know, it may just come down to a matter of trust. Okay, so we are just about to the nub. Very hot. Very hard to get any draw anymore because it's just blazing hot from having to puff it so much. The end of the cigar, a lot of flavor drops off, becomes a little flat. A lot of black pepper, a lot of woody notes, some perfumey floral type aroma. You know, basically at about halfway through the last third, the cigar starts to become unsmokable. It's just too hot, and oops, yeah. Ow. Nah, I can't. It's just too tight now. That's about it. You know, I think we're going to wrap it up and give you a final rating. As far as the construction of the cigar goes, like I said before, I'll say it again, it's a shame, it happens. Will it stop me from trying other cigars by Emilio Cigars? Absolutely not. I'm definitely going to try some of the other cigars he gave me, and I'm definitely going to try some of the cigars by the other boutique brands that House of Emilio represents. We're going to see what's up with that. And the flavor of the cigar, up until, you know, up until just now, has been very good for the most part. It's just a shame with the construction, but whatever. We'll give it a rating based on all that. One last comment that I caught my eye, and I like this guy because he doesn't comment much, but when he does, he just he just comments, gives me like a little fucking, you know, ego shout out. He goes, Dr. Joe for Prez. I think he's the same guy, I may be wrong last time, who said, oh, my favorite show on earth is back or something. He goes, Dr. Joe for Prez. I said, man, if you've seen what's going on, the last thing I ever want to be is any type of fucking president, except maybe of a cigar company, and even then, I have a feeling that has mostly to do with pushing a lot of paper around. I'd much rather be a taste tester. So, I try. I would much rather be a taste tester. That is for sure. So, without further ado, let's wrap it up. It's been fun. At least we've been introduced to a whole new world of cigars online with Emilio Cigars and House of Emilio, and let's give you a final review. And there you have it, our Emilio Cigars AF1. You know, this is really an example of a very good cigar affected by poor construction. And unfortunately, being that, you know, construction, draw, burn, and all of that is part of the rating system, the cigar should be rated as thus. I think it's a good thing for the company to know, because if they don't, they can't look into it. You know, if everybody says, oh, these cigars are really good, there's no fucking problem, and meanwhile there's construction issues, who can go to the factory and say, hey, look, somebody's rolling these things too tight, or somebody's doing something wrong? But it also could be a case that this just happens to be one poorly constructed cigar in a batch of very good cigars. So, of course, I'll be willing to try another one, and of course, I'm definitely going to try some of the other lines from Emilio Cigars, as well as some of the other boutique brands that they distribute through House of Emilio. So, if we look at our ratings, appearance 0.75, very dark, nice looking wrapper, oils coming through, very alive, very fresh. I like the classy band, I like the appearance, you know, just a good looking cigar. Construction, 0.25, awful, awful. Every time the thing started to burn well, it burned good for the first third of an inch, and after that it was just a nightmare. You know, every time it started to burn okay, another channel opened up and there was a gaping hole going all the way through the cigar. It happened 3 times. Really test my patience. As such, the draw was severely affected, also a 0.25. I hardly got a good puff out of this thing. Based on what I could get, I got very good flavor. You know, the burn, 0.5. Funny as it may seem, the thing burned very evenly, although it wasn't drawing properly. The pre-draw flavor, 0.75. One of the better pre-draw flavors I've gotten out of cigars. Very intense. You know, it let you know that there was going to be a lot of flavor going on. And there was. Overall flavor, 1.5. I found it to be great. You know, a lot of woody notes, some notes of cocoa, chocolate, some of that dried fruit going on, a little bit of complexity, a lot of spice in the beginning. Really good cigar with some change-ups. Aroma, again, 0.75, great aroma. Like I said, at one point it had this really woody fireplace type smell. Then later on I got a lot of aroma from the chocolatey wrapper. Balance, 0.5. It was a very strong cigar, but not overly so. The spice from the beginning was very intense, but faded in nicely very quickly. And complexity and balance, both 0.5. So, as you can see, all scores did very well, except for construction and draw, which really affected the overall rating of 5.75. Again, using our rating system, not a terrible score, you know, 5.75, it's almost a 6, almost a very good cigar, and it would have been a great cigar had it not been for these construction issues. But I think it's only fair to let people know that that is what I got. So, that's that. Emilio Cigars, House of Emilio, distributor of a number of boutique blends, brands across the internet. And we will be trying more of these in the future. So, that being said, good night to all, and as always, don't let it get you down. Keep on smoking.